All right, I'd like to call to order the work session of the Town Trustees, Monday, July 12th, 2021. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. Ed, you have first on here for discussion the incidental take permit. We have some people in the audience for permits. You want to do that first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Can we do a roll call?
Okay. Yes, roll call, please.
so President
Mr. Secretary,
Schultz.
Here.
Secretary Treasurer Scott M. Horowitz, that's me, I'm here. Ed J. Warner, Jr.
Present.
William Pell IV.
Present.
Trustee Ann Welker.
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Great. So let's jump right into general permit application for determination. So we have, first on the agenda is 44A Basket Neck Lane in Remsenburg. Is the contractor, please come forward here and discuss the project. We need your name and who you represent.
Sure. My name is Ben Terzulli, Terzulli. I'm with C-Tech LLC. I'm actually just the permit consultant. I've been working with the owner and the contractor. Will be J.D. Isaacson.
Right. Okay. So, James, if you want to put up the photos first, I would imagine. Yeah, photos would be good. Okay.
James, is this the property what goes, it's on the corner of the canal?
No.
No, it's the one over. Or the one inside of it?
You can describe what's going on
Yeah.
if you want, Ben.
Yeah, so what do you want to
This
do?
is an in-place reconstruction of existing bulkhead. Actually on, I believe it's the...
Can you
Excuse me for a
explain
second.
it from the podium?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Oh, because you don't have a mic there?
I have a mic, but when
Okay.
he turns around to look at it.
Oh, all right. We're just getting used to a year and a half not being
No
in a
problem.
public
My
session.
first time
here.
doing this
Get up
too,
to
so
speed.
bear with me, I'll bear with you.
Now we know they're using the podium.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
So, yeah, it's mostly an in-place reconstruction of a Navy-style bulkhead. The only difference is we're moving the property into the bulkhead into the property line on the west side. Actually, removing some property to become waterfront now, that area. There was an existing pier out to a ramp, through a lot of back and forth with the DEC. They agreed to permit the existing, or the proposed layout here, which is just, looks like a 100-foot pier with a ramp down to a float. Pretty straightforward from the permitting aspect, but I do have some updated photos from the owner on my phone I could show you. It is getting worse, and he is very concerned. He just wants to protect his property.
And what was the treatment going to be behind the bulkhead? What were you going to do?
I don't believe we were going to do any dredging here. We were just going to backfill.
No, I meant you're going to take up the
sorry.
walkway.
He was going to remove and replace, hopefully, the existing walkway.
Okay. Well, the only problem is the DEC should be aware of this too, because they followed our ordinances that we have a 100-foot pier line throughout that whole area, which means total amount of improvements should not exceed 100 feet.
Okay, is that measured from the bulkhead? Okay, so
So you have a 100-foot pier, plus you have now another 30.
It's an L-shaped dock. It's not going to go any further than the existing fixed pier.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm
According to
confused.
that,
According to that,
it's 100 feet.
So on the survey, there was an L-shaped pier, but now they did have us reduced to just a 100-foot straight pier.
Okay.
Oh,
A
so
ramp coming down. and-
Oh, okay, okay.
My question is concerning the wood walkway. The length of the bulkhead is approximately 179, 180 feet. Would it be possible to condense that walkway so that there could be more of a buffer there?
It's the corner property?
We've been doing,
One inside.
we've
Not
been
the
trying to
active.
do in the range of 30%
No.
of the bulkhead
As far as the
as
width.
far as the wood walkway.
the length of the length along the,
I see.
Bay.
You don't want the full length. I mean, I'm not the
No, there's really
owner,
no reason to have that all along there.
right? I mean, his argument was that it's there now. He was there when he bought the house. He'd like to keep it if he could.
As a steward of the waterways, as a homeowner on waterfront property, it's important that he start to act as a steward, and one way of doing that is by increasing the buffer. And wood walkways don't absorb any of the runoff that's coming off of hardened surfaces or lawns. So if you were willing to take that up with him, that's,
Willing
it's
to
what.
do whatever you suggest.
Well, I got a question for you. You get 25 feet of grass. Define what type of grass it is that you're talking about. Are you talking native grasses, or are you talking regular lawn turf? What,
Just regular lawn talk.
so would
Well,
you,
you can't have that
would you
either.
consider, kind of breaking that up and doing some buffering there from the lawn so we could address, that issue of the runoff? Perhaps having an area there where you've got deep-rooted native vegetation, and then segueing up into, your regular grass?
Okay.
Well, I've had a lot of experience working down in this particular area for the last, 30 years, right? And what seems to work the best down there is maybe like a 4-foot width of surge stone, the larger size bluestone, not small stuff. I mean, like about 6-inch diameter, 4-inch, little interlocks with the band of beach grass behind that.
Okay.
No.
That's been working very successfully down there, because you have a unique area down there. You have a lot of shallows, and Moriches Bay whips up real fast. And you have the inlets right across from there, and that surge that comes across, it's always splashing over. I mean, no matter how high the bulkhead is, it takes the full frontage of that. And the surge stone has worked, this one bulkhead that I approved 20-something years ago, looks like it's the same now as it was 20 years ago. I mean, once it was put in. There's no movement. That stuff interlocks,
All right.
and the beach grass grows up to it and a little bit through it, and it all knits together and works great.
Okay.
So then you have a band of about 4 or 5 feet of the beach grass,
Right.
which absorbs the nutrients coming from the lawn, and then the surge stone locks things in. Because if you put the beach grass right up to the bulkhead, it doesn't seem to work there, because it's going to come up and scour out.
Okay. As far as the wood walkway, I mean, what would you be willing to live with? Just 25% of the width, is that what you said?
Well, the thing is down there is that, at low tide, I mean, you're not gonna tie a boat up to the bulkhead, because it's just gonna be beat up. Yeah, you have to have something off that bulkhead. So having a wood walk along the whole width really achieves nothing. Because, what are you gonna do with it? You're just gonna walk up and down the bulkhead, and then that's gonna be it. You're not gonna have a boat there that you're gonna have a ladder going down to, because you have to keep the minimum that you could be off that bulkhead would be at least 20 feet as far as putting any boat, because the surge that comes up and bounces off and comes back out again will swamp anything.
Yeah, the water's not deep too close to the bulkhead either.
No,
so I don't
no,
know.
you're only about maybe 12 inches or so.
at low tide, it goes dry there.
Yeah, low tide, in the wintertime, the low tide, it goes dry. In the summertime, it's about, like 12 inches. But the backwash from that bulkhead is tremendous down there.
Okay.
So,
I'm gonna focus the boardwalk down towards the pier, which.
well, I would say you need about, 10 feet on each side of the pier?
25
Yeah.
feet would accommodate good access, not
Yeah.
tracking any dirt and stuff. You could put a chair there, or you could put your kayak and paddle boards, stack it on there, and it would give you an area that you could store stuff
Yeah,
for your boat, and then also it would, give us a good buffer of the rest of it. So, like a quarter of it, 25 feet would be probably practical.
yeah, I think that would be right. Yep.
And when we say beach grass, it means not to be mowed, not to be irrigated, not to be fertilized?
Spartina,
So-
I'll get the species name.
Cape
What?
Ameri-
Cape
Cape
American
American
beach grass.
really is,
Yeah.
seems to
There's
be
no
the best
water.
material because when it overtops with the salt water, it's somewhat saltwater tolerable.
I'd say like half and half, half Surstone, half that.
Okay, understood.
That's what we're trying to aim for these days. The beach grass works well in that area basically from all along that whole Remsenburg shoreline there.
Okay. So I don't work this far east usually, so I submit a revised plan to your office, and hopefully get on the next available work schedule. Is that how it goes?
Well, you know, we have this, the January 19th one, that's now been pulled back now? This cross-section?
March
This is-
11th is the most up-to-date.
Okay, so this has been pulled back to the 100 feet? Because this one here that I have, January 19th, shows a 100-foot walkway, and then you have 32 feet past that to the outside of the float.
Yeah, the section I have has a 100-foot pier, which is the DEC section. I don't know if I
And then
submitted.
the ramp and float, is that parallel or perpendicular to the
The float?
Perpendicular,
perpendicular?
just stay within 100 feet.
Okay.
It's the one that's on the screen is the most up-to-date one.
Okay, that's May 18th, right, okay. Okay.
All right.
I don't know.
Work, no,
I'm just,
Yeah, I'll
I'm
do
just,
whatever you need.
look, it's just my experience down there, right? That is a treacherous area. It's one of the only places in town where we allow boat lifts because it's so bad down there,
Understood.
right? And you putting a float parallel to the bulkhead with that boat sitting there, it's now gonna take all the brunt of that wave energy.
Understood.
I would really suggest, if you don't want to be coming in here in the next year or two saying the boat's all beat up, is to work out something where that float is in parallel to the walkway, don't you
Right.
think, Ed?
Yeah, you want the
I mean-
boat bow into the southwesterly wind that occurs there.
You see,
Understood.
that whole area, everybody's got the boat lifts up for a reason. So sometimes you have to look at an area and say, why is there boat lifts all in this? Why are all the boats oriented a certain way? You will find, if you look at the aerials, you won't see one single boat in that area, in that,
It's kind of
the way you
limited
have
on
it
what I
drawn.
could,
Side two.
I was kind of limited on what I could propose by the DEC too, so they.
Well, see, they don't know what they're talking about, okay? They're looking at a drawing, and they don't
Yeah,
know.
I should have put a
they
boat
don't-
lift on the inside of this float, which sounds like it would have made the most sense, or I don't even need the float. I could have put a boat lift right against the pier.
Well, I mean, if you got a boat lift, I mean.
You can put it parallel with a dock.
Right. You know,
You
this is what
could,
the owner wanted.
well, just what the owner wants is not really, he's got to take a look around and see his next door neighbors have done, tried and true through the past, like, 30, 40 years.
Right.
It would make much more sense for him to put a shorter dock in and put a boat lift in.
Can I come off the pier with a small projection and come down parallel to the pier with the float, staying within the 100 feet mark? You know what I mean?
Yeah, most of those piers down there would have straight out to a ramp, straight down to a float, and then the boats on the side.
So I don't have the
of
water depth, but the float can go out up past 100 feet?
that. No, you have to stay within the 100
Right,
feet.
so-
You're not making a water
Okay.
depth.
Understood. All right, so,
Well,
What is the water depth at the end of the dock?
it's real close.
it says 30.
So if you actually chalk it and have it suspended parallel to the fixed pier and have the dock parallel to that, you could chalk it and have a,
All right, I'll thank you too.
The
They do
float,
have to be
you can't
chalked.
chalk a float there with the waves.
Oh,
people do it in.
His plans are saying chalk, right?
Yeah.
yeah, you're saying chalked.
It's a waste.
I mean, realistically,
I
the
mean,
best,
Bill's right.
the best docking facility would be a lift there.
Yeah.
I mean, in
I
my
think you
opinion.
could get away with a much shorter length with a boat lift, which is characteristic to that area. If he wants to do it, though, I would say, if he wants to float and everything, that he should come out straight with the float, have that
You know,
float.
he's really
reoriented.
concerned about his bulkhead right now. He thinks it's hazardous to his family, so
Okay, if you want to do just the bulkhead right now and then
If I could.
discuss the part of it.
how do we do that?
You can take that one part off.
Okay.
You submit the plan
Take it off,
specifically for the
bulkhead.
bulkhead, and
Yeah.
then, and in the future, you come in and amend the plans
Right.
for the dock and whatever boat lift, float, or whatever you determine.
Okay, so now this is not going to be, this is going to be for the next meeting that we're going to discuss that. So if you get those revised plans in for that, then it'll be on for approval for the next meeting.
Okay, I'm
We
just
just
gonna
need-
take the structures off for now.
We just need the plans and the cover sheet that have it
New
removed.
description?
Yeah, and the
Okay.
description.
No problem.
Yeah, if the owner wants to talk to me, I'll be happy to talk to him.
I think he will.
Okay, okay.
Share that.
All right.
All right, so let's
Thank
move that
you.
part along.
Okay?
Okay.
Is that it? Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yes, okay,
Have a
thanks a
nice
lot.
day.
And to be clear, you're advancing it pending those paper.
Advancing it pending the receipt of the revised drawings, which, okay. Okay. That is a very dynamic area down there. This is Let me see your agenda there for a minute. Quick, put it in with this stuff. Okay, next one is trumpets.
Good morning.
Josh?
Nice to see some faces instead of masks, huh?
Yes. Name and, your name for the record.
Okay. Glenn Chuss, JMO Environmental Consulting, the agent for Trumpets.
Okay. So you want to describe the project, what you want to do?
I'm sorry.
You describe your project.
Describe the project, okay.
I think I left it in the car.
Oh, okay. Resheath existing smooth sheathing timber bulkhead, 400. I'll do it. Resheath existing smooth sheathing timber bulkhead, 462 feet with tongue and groove sheathing fastened directly to seaward timber bulkhead face. Now, what type of tongue and groove sheathing you putting in?
It's going to be like a vinyl or plastic.
Oh, the recycled plastic?
Either that or the vinyl.
They're making tongue and groove vinyl now?
I believe so.
Oh, okay. All right, dredge a maximum 5-foot offshore bulkhead to -3, mean low water in place as backfill to bulkhead. Remove top decking of walkway to place dredge material beneath walkway and replace decking in same footprint and location. Okay, so you got the pictures of everything? I think everybody's familiar, you're familiar with trumpets down there,
Yeah.
so you've been
Been
down
down
there
every
working
day.
on that project.
Every day.
Okay,
I know.
right next to our docking facility.
It's coming out really nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, it looks great. I think you drive a Mack truck on that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember, I've been around too long. I remember approving this in that configuration from the old creosote bulkhead that was there. I'm now reviewing. Okay. So, you're going to raise it in height?
I don't believe so.
I thought you were.
Yeah, 6
Okay.
inches.
Yes, you had 6 inches down there.
That's reasonable.
I apologize. I can.
No, that's fine.
That's
That's
fine.
fine.
I
That's,
think that's
that's a reasonable height down there. We're pretty much familiar with that whole site down there. We've been down there a lot. Just the CCA that was approved years ago, it just doesn't last. It's just being eaten up.
It's that 2.5-inch that CCA that everyone was using back in the late 80s and early 90s, and it just,
Yeah, even 2-pound treated marine,
Yep.
wasn't the gribbles are eating it right up like candy.
yeah.
So. Okay, well, I'd like to advance this. I think it's a no-brainer on
I
this one
concur.
here.
I concur.
We're going to permit the whole walkway there?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have people, it's a
a
commercial facility.
commercial
Facility.
And they have the grass in between there.
Yeah, I think that takes care of it.
Well, only other thing they could do is put flow through in there, so the water, when they get a storm, the water goes through it quicker.
Are you planning on replacing the existing wood on the, or new?
Yeah.
New. Because they were using, I think they use it for docking some boats there too,
Yes.
transient boats when they
Yes.
come in. So
Yeah.
that's why they need the deck there.
I mean, I think
I
it's okay.
think on a commercial facility like that, I think they might need the solid wood.
Definitely.
You know.
I think so too.
Yeah, you don't want people walking through grass and,
You don't have a
It's a
gigantic,
liability issue.
I mean, it's,
you don't have a gigantic lawn that you're dealing with.
and there is some grass behind it, like
Yes.
wetlands,
Exactly.
which is not gonna be disturbed, right, Glenn?
Right.
I think it's a good.
Well, that's what we made them do in the first place. They wanted originally wanted to bulkhead that whole thing, and we made them put the grass intermediate zone in there when the creosote bulkhead was changed,
I think it's good.
so. Okay, everybody concur?
I think it's good.
Okay.
It's-
Okay, we'll move this
he does
forward.
a Good job.
Okay. So, which one do you want to do next?
What's the?
This-
Bluff Point.
No, I mean, we have two other ones that, let's see, JMO is doing this while he's up there. Alan Manheimer, 7 Reynolds Drive.
Yeah, JMO,
Yes, he's JMO,
7.
right.
sorry.
I'm gonna bang them all out.
Yeah, might as well while he's up there.
Keep Glenn captive while we got him here.
Right.
Glenn Just, once again, is agent for the Manheimers. The applicant proposed to remove existing 200 linear feet of timber bulkhead, 16-foot western return, 140 linear feet, 4-foot wide boardwalk, and replace the same footprint up to 8 inches higher, 200 linear feet of Navy constructed vinyl sheathing, 16-foot of western return,
God, this is up here.
140 by 4-foot wide boardwalk in the same location / footprint, and dredged to minus 2 feet mean low water up to 5 feet offshore of the reconstructed bulkhead. And that spoil will be used for backfill. And it would be about 25 cubic yards of backfill of sand. And that'll all be located within 10 feet of the landward side of the bulkhead. And also place 6-inch cobble, surge stone, 4-foot wide beneath those boardwalk. And that's just to break up the runoff.
You want to show up the pictures on that?
Yep.
Where the heck is it? This is a little messed up. Basket neck. Sorry about, we got two.
What's the situation with the neighboring properties?
I'm sorry?
What's the situation with the neighboring properties as far as the height of their
The
bulkheads?
one to the east
See
is
the one in the-
not
in the
bulkhead.
yellow
I think there's an
folder.
application pending.
Yeah, it's all mixed up with.
I don't know if it's coming in front of your board.
We'll go
but
off this.
I did see it on the DEC's website. And the property to the east, to the west has a similar bulkhead and door.
And what height is the one to the west
Same height as this one.
at this point?
At this point, yeah. I don't know whether we should be going 18 inches on this particular one here. I mean, I can go for a slight rise, but, you know.
It's the
seems
ground
to be-
behind it, it's not that high to begin with.
Right. You'd have to raise everything up, and then I'm concerned about, you know, the Chinese wall effect there, everybody jumping up the same height. Now, the one end there to the east there's a beach. Okay? You got the aerial on that? You showed it?
It's like a big coat, like a cutout.
Right. That's the only area that's not bulkheaded in that particular area.
And see how that's already eroded due to the bulkheads on both sides, particularly on
Again,
the
Right.
west side.
They do have an application to the DEC, but I don't know what the status of it is.
Who? The people with the beach?
Yes.
Well, I'm sure that the DEC's gonna make them move it back somewhat, you know. Although I don't know if you have existing bulkheads on each side for a certain amount of distance, don't they allow you to bulkhead across it or whatever?
Where they are now, who knows?
Yeah, I know, it's a
But
crapshoot.
we can't let them put a bulkhead across
No, I'm just saying.
in the
I-
back.
I mean, I don't think it's going to affect that beach or whatever,
No.
regardless if you go another couple inches higher. I mean, the wall is still there. It's gonna erode
But if
it,
you go
know.
too high, then they're gonna backfill it. Then you
Yeah,
gotta
too
have
high is
the-
not gonna work out.
But we gotta
Right.
run
Right,
off.
I would say like 6 inches, anything at the most.
18 he doesn't need, look how
No,
far back the house
no.
and everything is.
If you
No.
drop it up, if you move it up 18 inches, you're gonna pitch all the water towards the house.
It's gonna grade wrong if you
Right,
do that.
right.
Yeah, the grade now, if you got a storm, it will go back into the bay.
And you're gonna pitch it over to the beach area.
They got a lot of buffer there now.
Right.
I would say like,
Right.
6 or 8 inches, raising it up, that way we guaranteed to have a lip on the bulkhead, so you don't get the
Mhm.
runoff.
Right.
And then let them, revegetate and move, maybe get rid of some of that 140-foot walkway and put some, grasses similar to what's in back of the boardwalk now. It seems to be
Mhm.
working pretty well. It's not scoured out, and
Right.
it looks nice.
Right, right.
What are you doing?
Similar to what we just did with that gentleman over here before.
He was
Right.
talking about doing surge stone underneath that walkway, right?
Pardon?
You're gonna do surge stone underneath the walkway?
Correct.
Yeah.
So he's planning on
That's
that,
the correct thing to do.
which is good. And then you're buffering beyond that.
Mhm.
So I mean, I think he's,
Yeah.
Yeah, but shorten up the catwalk that's there. It's
Right,
another
right.
one.
Another one, you don't need that much.
how wide do you got it?
4 feet, I think.
And,
Yeah,
yeah,
4
and it's
feet.
shallow, it's shallow there too. So, I mean, it's basically cosmetic most of the time, this walkway, there's no reason to have them, they never get used. And you're not gonna tie a boat up next to the bulkhead anyway, so let's shorten that up.
Yeah. put the-
James,
Yeah.
would you mind putting the
And it was
shot
the
that
wall.
shows the length of the bulkhead?
I don't know what the hell happened
I think it's 140 feet.
The photographs or the?
He's got a big,
No,
how
the
wide is your
plans.
buffer there, Glenn?
Pardon me?
How wide is your buffer?
The existing?
Yeah,
It's probably 40 feet.
that's a big buffer.
Mm-hmm,
You got a big buffer there.
yeah.
So you're holding back a lot of your upland right there with that buffer, which you're gonna be maintaining. So I mean, you got a good steward of the bay right here.
Yep, yep.
So it's about 130 feet, a little more, in length that's going to be re-bulkheaded, so
It was
25.
scaled up to about 140, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So if we were to restrict that walkway to,
This is 25 feet, sounds about right, about what we did on the other one.
The other one
Right.
was very similar
Right.
to this.
Let's stay,
application.
let's stay consistent with that particular area, I mean, it's right down, it's
I don't know
right
what you,
nearby.
with what he's done with that 40-foot buffer and the surge stone underneath that walkway, I don't know what you're really gonna accomplish by doing that in addition to what he's already done, but, you know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Well, I think he's done it, I mean, if he's got a 40-foot buffer and a surge stone underneath that wood walkway, he's done, I think, a very good job of protecting that waterway,
Mhm.
based on what I'm seeing.
Right.
It's not like he's got a big lawn that's right up to it, he's stepped back.
Yeah,
No, no, I
normally-
understand that. I mean,
Normally,
we
the
need a-
decking is completely even with the top of the bulkhead, so there is some sheet runoff that goes. If you reduce the walkway and drop it down, because you're raising it up, and then put the stone on each side, you're gonna have a good wicking action from the material in back. That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
Because you will get runoff because normally you put the walkway right flush with the bulkhead top, and then it all runs into the bay. So reducing the amount of, which we did on the other application, which is almost identical to this, would be very consistent.
Mhm.
lessening the amount of pervious surfaces is so important. Non-pervious surface.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, what is he achieving there with having the walkway?
I think it's basically probably aesthetics.
Yeah.
Probably, I mean, they're not,
What's your client
it's
want?
not
I
going
can
from one
understand.
place to another. There's no boats that can be tied up alongside there, so you don't really need the access along there. I mean,
What do you think, Glenn? What do you think your client,
I'll bounce it off the client, but I'm listening to the applicant, two applications that we were describing, this, I've never heard of it before, but come to think of it, you're absolutely right.
we've been doing it in other
I've never
areas
picked up
there.
on it, quite frankly.
It just seems to be like,
Saves
oh,
some
it's the
money.
thing to do is to put a walkway along there so you can walk back and forth. I mean,
Yeah, but it encourages people to put stuff there and you get a storm and it washes into the bay.
Oh, and then
Dock
it's-
boxes, chairs.
It would be more debris.
I have physically seen this.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. Especially if it's a wood walk and you get there and the tide comes up and blows it out and it's all the junk's laying in the marsh.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
Right.
So
Okay.
What type of?
6-inch height,
But
up.
as far as the walkway,
as far as the walkway, 25 foot,
25?
yeah. In an area, let's be proactive about it. If he's going to put a dock there at some point, put it where if he does intend on putting a dock in, put it in that area.
Okay.
It looks like he's got some, yeah.
Wherever there's improvements, it goes from the house to the edge of the bulkhead.
Mhm.
That's where I would,
Basically, it's just paths through there right
Yeah.
now, so, let's orient it towards a place in the future that if he's gonna come in with something, that we're not building something else, so.
Yep, I understand.
I will commend your applicant for maintaining a nice buffer as it is,
Yes,
though,
yes.
as well.
Tony
And I
did a
think
good
that
job.
You don't see, a lot of times you see grass right up there,
Oh, yeah.
and this is, you do have to also give credit where credit is due.
Okay. Okay, so if you get the revised drawings in, we'll move this
I'll
forward
I'll
then.
contact the client this afternoon and get the stuff in as soon as possible.
Okay, very good.
Thank you very much. Good
Great.
seeing you as well.
Thanks,
Thank
Glenn.
you.
You too.
You're gonna advance it pending those plans?
Yes. You wanna,
In the cover sheet. Take it all. Yep.
Take care, Glenn.
you wanna skip it and go on with, get Suffolk and environmental out?
Sure.
Take care of them? Okay.
Sure.
Ann's
Robert,
gonna do the next one for,
This is
25 Bluff Point Road.
25 Bluff Point Road, Village of Sag Harbor, Suffolk Environmental Consulting.
The
you
next
like to-
generation of Andersons coming up here to Suffolk Environmental.
You
Just have to
introduced
state your name for the record.
My name's Robert Anderson, Suffolk Environmental Consulting on behalf of the applicant. Currently, we're dealing with a vacant parcel, and we are proposing to install a, I believe, I'm sorry, I'm just reading the project description, I'm just making sure it's the most recent one. I had, the original proposal called for a bulkhead replacement, which we had since removed from our project, and we are now currently only going for the docking facility. Overall length of 60 feet, consisting of a T-shape, T-formation floating dock, fixed catwalk of 50 feet, 4 feet wide, and a 3 by 15 hinged wooden ramp. At this point, the depths are what we would consider inadequate, so we have proposed to do a vertical cable stay or a chalking system to prevent the float from ever resting on the bottom. I'm open to any questions that the board may have, and hopefully I can provide any clarification if needed.
One question that had come up is the length overall
Yes.
and the location of mean high water. In one, on one set of the plans, it shows mean high water right at the bulkhead versus on the survey, it shows mean high water approximately 4 to 6 feet off the bulkhead.
Which dated plans are these that we're looking at currently?
I think they are the, let's see, April 8th plans.
Yes,
That's when we received them.
You sent updated ones then?
yes, I sent updated ones dated May 20th, 2021.
They're probably waiting to be logged in.
Okay, so for that though, we do have that was just kind of a drafting error, which we've since corrected to match with the survey, where mean high water is approximately 4 feet. I don't have a scale in front of me, but it looks about,
So
actually more like 8 feet off of the bulkhead from my diagram.
And they're not, and like you said earlier, you're not doing the bulkhead, you said, right?
No, we're not
No.
currently proposing the bulkhead.
Okay,
at this
so
time,
it's
no.
just the,
it's just the.
and that's
P-
proposed on those new plans?
Yes, just the dock. The bulkhead has been removed from the proposal.
Okay.
Right, okay.
So we're not looking at the actual plans right now.
No.
No,
So
Do you have a set of plans for the float?
I do have a set of plans. Nothing has changed as far as the
Can you
float
put-
goes.
Can you put that up, please?
I can't.
Okay.
I have a copy on me that I could pass
You
around.
can pass a copy around if you guys want to see it.
What is the depth of the water at the float?
Currently approximately 25 inches at the depth, at the landwardmost end of the float.
Okay.
So you say you're gonna chalk this float?
Yes, we planned on snaking cables from either pilings on either end going through the,
I'm not a big component on chalking floats because they do it for the first year, then they don't do it when the dock builders put it back in, and it ends up sitting on the ground.
it's my client's intention
I
to
know.
fully maintain it, but I do understand your concern there.
Yeah.
This is the only way that we can maintain, that we can achieve a float there without disturbing any bottom land.
Yeah.
And by maintaining the trustees' regulation for how far the pier lines go in that area.
Because it depends how you make the float. If you use the plastic, what everyone's using now, the wire's gonna cut right through it. You're gonna have to go with a fully wood frame.
We would probably go along those lines either way.
What, you mean piles with joists across? that
No,
would fit
cable,
within?
you're talking about cable.
Well, I mean, a more
You're going
permanent thing would be
T,
fixed on
with
it.
catwalk.
with a piles with it, like it actually sits on a cradle.
Wouldn't it be better to have just a T fixed dock there?
I agree with Ed with the T-dock.
And if you wanted to
think so,
step
yeah.
it down a foot lower than the catwalk out, then it would be more of a functional. And then you could put a ladder down to the boat, and then you wouldn't have any issues with, scouring out underneath the dock.
This is, gonna be less maintenance. The cable's gonna be high maintenance. If one cable snaps, the thing's gonna flip it over.
No, I understand, yes.
Yeah.
And then you can go with all light penetrating decking. If there's any submerged aquatic vegetation under any of the structure, you would be getting sunlight to it. With the float, the way you have it now, you're not gonna get any sunlight if there is any submerged aquatic vegetation there. And Billy, you own a marina.
Yeah.
Functionally, this would probably be the most appropriate in a low water situation.
Yeah, you got it. I agree with you, Ed.
Okay, so the board is more favorable towards a fixed dock formation with a T shape at the end?
Yeah.
I could drop it down about a foot, make it more accessible, and possibly a ladder at the very
Yeah,
end?
put a
Yeah.
ladder.
Ladder on both ends of it, so you can get in either end of the boat, and then you can put the fiberglass whips off and just keep the boat off the dock, so it would be a very functional docking facility.
So
I don't see any problem with that.
it works with the pier line, it works with the depth, and it works with increased light.
A lot easier for your client.
We were just, it was more of a preference thing, as I understand. Both of the docks on either side are both floating dock formations, because we kind of wanted to keep the characteristics similar, make everything look the same, basically. I don't want to get anybody upset.
Some merit to that, too.
Mhm.
Do you need to speak with your client?
I will need to speak
on
with them
this?
just to make sure that.
Probably, yeah.
Catwalk to
Okay.
just there.
Yeah, I could do
You
that.
drop it down and the whips and then.
With light penetrated
Yeah,
decking.
and then it would be really a good project.
This is light penetrable decking. Okay.
You advancing this pending that, or do you want to hold it to?
I think he wants to
discuss?
discuss it with your client before.
Yeah,
you-
I will
Yeah,
need to
he's got
discuss
it.
it.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll hold. Here's your copy of plans, unless you can let us
Please.
keep this, but
No, he's gonna have to,
ours
we
is
may
in
have
the
to change it
mail.
anyway.
I mean, if he sent it in, then we should have it waiting
Okay.
to be logged in.
Okay,
And then you maybe revised it anyway, so
Yeah.
I'll be by with revised plans shortly. either
okay,
way.
great.
go to your client.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your
Be in
time.
touch.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down.
Okay. Let's go back to Stephen Wax at 38 Basket Neck Lane. Okay, a little bit messed up here because the file got turned over and the stuff spilled out, and there's a bunch of paperwork on this, but essentially what it is that the applicant called in for a final inspection, and it was found that he had done some work that was not on the original plans. Okay, now, he had the bulkhead permit was a part of this also, but they're not exploring it at this time, right? It was that, but here, see this here, install boat lift with 1,600-foot lift capacity, install 4 10-inch diameter green hard piles, and a small 2x6 extension, a small step to enable access to the boat lift. You want to take a, go to the pictures?
Yep.
So the Bay Constable went down there to inspect and found that he had put in this, doesn't correspond exactly to the original plans that were.
These are the only photos, yeah.
Oh. we
Did
have
you
the one-
take
We have
some?
the ones with the, in the file, the one with the small,
Hang on.
2-foot extension, 2-foot little float. So usually the way I'd handle this thing is that if he had come in the first place with this 2-foot float, would we have permitted it? You know, that's the way I look at it. So it's minor in nature, but he's moving some of the piles around to this float, I mean the boat lift.
So what did the Bay Constable do when they inspected? Where do things stand?
That's the file right there. So basically, in order to, coming in to modify the permit to allow for this 2-foot little float. Let me see if I got pictures in here.
You have pictures in there, because I,
Yeah.
So it's a step down on the side
Yeah.
that was added?
Yeah, hang on.
right
We
here.
have done that before.
Yeah, it's a little 6-foot long by 2-foot wide float
So
that's
people-
floating
yeah, Yeah,
alongside.
so they can get on and off the boat.
I'm sorry, the
So not
the
right
file
from the-
kind of
Yeah, we have done that before.
self-destructed here, so I'm trying to find the stuff while we're talking about
So-
other projects at the same time here.
So it's an amendment.
Yes, modification to the permit.
So there's
He's
no
paid all
other
the
float on
fees.
the structure right now? This would be the only float that's on this structure?
No, he's got a float, but it's an additional float that's 2-foot wide. I have the picture here somewhere.
2-foot by?
2-foot by 6-foot long.
What it does is make it closer to the boat.
But he's already got a 6x20 float?
Yeah.
Hang on a minute.
We have done it before when it's like a fixed dock, Ed, but not off a float.
Okay. Let's see, what else do we have here on the agenda here? You want to go to something else for a little while till I get this file in order here? Because we're going to be a little while, because things got intermixed a little bit,
Okay.
all right?
We got the South End of Town, North Sea Harbor.
I'll get it all together here.
This is
the
the LY
LY
drain. Yeah, this is a very important
Okay,
project.
all right, let's do that.
Um,
Meanwhile, give me a time to
This
get straighten out.
project's one of the largest Elway passage on eastern Long Island. James, can you describe this, the project?
Let me pull it up.
It's been years in the making,
Yeah.
and it's involved a great many departments and organizations, and the funding has been a long time in the
Yeah,
works,
it's
too.
It's a no-brainer.
It will be a great addition
Did you
to
find it?
this
Yes,
passage.
it's up on the
Okay.
thing now. It's redoing the culvert underneath the road to get from the, for the culvert for the LY drain to go through.
To the stream up.
Oh, okay.
Under
Stream
Noyak,
south of-
under Noyak
It's
Road.
gonna, instead of, it's round now, instead of being round, it's gonna be
Oh, the oval.
4x6, and it's gonna be all new stone inside, and it's gonna be designed so that there's water in it 24 hours a day, so it's not going dry like it does now. So the fish can go up there more easily. It's gonna clean it out. I like the if anyone has any more questions, we can pass this down.
They're gonna put a baffle system on the north side of the
Yeah.
road.
Yes.
A system where there's a bunch of little ponds and pools.
Yep.
For the LYs to be able to rest, even at low tide. And then, right now, it's completely dry at low
Yeah.
tide. And with the plan, the way it's proposed, they're gonna have a series of little pools and staging areas so the LYs can rest even at low tide, because they'll have enough water, and then they'll move up to the culvert, and then when the tide rises, they'll be able to follow there.
There's no pictures of that, just drawings, so it's hard to, show people on TV.
I mean, this has been probably 5 years in the making. I was in on
Longer
the
than that.
original meeting with,
Yeah.
with everybody at the DEC and
So
the highway and the town, and, it's a really, like Billy said, it's a really important run of LYs, probably the biggest one on the island, and it's historically have year after year after year, so it's something that maintaining this and helping them along is a really good positive thing for the whole.
Oh, yeah, and we're not giving up any rights to anyone about this, and it's good for everyone.
Nancy?
I like to move this forward.
I just have one question. When's the work going to be done, or two questions? And will anything be done to the stream bed on the North Sea Harbor side, on the Alewife Drain side?
Yeah, they're gonna put like little
Little
ponds and pooling areas there.
But that's on the
South.
south side of the road. What about on the north side?
No, it's gonna pretty much remain status quo, because they don't wanna change anything, because the flow of water that's coming out of Big Fresh, they don't wanna increase it, because it'll drain the pond too quick, so they wanna keep it consistent to what it has been historically.
You mean
That's
on-
why
on the
everybody
north-
has
on
been,
the north side?
had their inputs as far as elevations and size of these ponds and the baffling, right, Bill?
Yeah, the only thing they're doing on the north side is they're making it go like this.
Fanning it out a
Fanning
bit.
it out,
Okay.
so it keeps the size.
Sediment from
Yeah.
washing in, yes.
Okay, good, because those banks have eroded on either side there, so there's a fair amount of sediment there, so that's what I was wondering about.
There's gonna be a little bit of returns on each side of it.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can see it right here.
Okay, and when will the work be done? Between May and February?
That's before the Elway drain, I
Right.
would assume.
I would say definitely in the off-season of the LY.
Run.
But you also have to remember, there are fish returning out of there too,
Yeah.
in the fall of the year. So if you do it, in the wintertime, then everything is much quieter, I would say.
How government works, it's gonna be probably 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
Is
The
there,
traffic.
is there anything in there, James, in the description of when
I'm
the work
looking
will
at,
be done?
I don't think there is.
That would be important.
I think
Oh,
it
there
would-
you
I'm
go.
sure
There you go,
they,
between-
I'm sure they know that, but,
Yeah.
it would have to be, it'd have to tear up the road, put a precast culvert in there, and just fill everything back in.
Yeah.
It should only take maybe a couple weeks at the very
Yeah.
most.
But they'll let us know, just maybe in the note, we want.
Says,
oh, work prohibited
prohibited
between May
between
1st,
dates.
March 1st and May 31st.
Right.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
When is it, March 1st?
No, it can't, it prohibited from.
Prohibited.
Prohibited
March
March
1st and May
1st.
31st.
May 31st.
Yep,
Good project, good project.
yes.
That's very
Thank you
exciting.
Thank you to everybody who's worked on this over the years, including you guys, because the highway department's been very involved in this as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Alex did a good job on it.
Okay, James, you can bring back 38 Basket Neck. I've located the file. Okay, so essentially, he's modifying things. He wants to remove the repairs to the bulkhead from proposed activities. He no longer proposes to perform any work on the bulkhead or place any fill landward of the bulkhead. He wants to correct the permit language to match the existing site plan. The permit currently states, install 2 12 by 30 green heart piles and utilize 4 piles. The applicant requests this description be corrected to install 4 10-inch green heart piles and install a 2.5 by 6-foot float extension to enable access to the boat lift. See enclosed photographs. So this is what is down there now. There's the float.
Yeah.
The boat lifts here, and then they put this little thing so you can get
On it closer.
closer to the boat. Okay? So I think what happened is that they proposed the boat lift, it was approved, and then the contractor went down there and put it in, and then they realized that that it was too far away. They'd have to have
They
a,
put it too
have a
wide,
ladder.
they put it too wide a lifting
Yeah.
for a bigger boat.
So, that's what it is, a modification. So when they went down and they had the Bay Constable look at it, they found that that additional float was put in there, and some of the piles were different there, so,
So it was done for safety reasons?
yes, yeah.
So,
But my only question is there already a 6x20 float, so you're adding more float space to it?
Well, it's either that or modify the whole, make them pull everything out. and
Could you
put the
do it
floater, I don't
as
know.
a jet ski float, or call it one boat, so you're allowed to have two boats at the slip, at a dockhead? Call it as,
I mean, that was the only, is the shading aspect of it. And I know
Yeah.
this is Mauritius Bay, and there is eelgrass there. I don't know if it's any eelgrass in this
No,
area.
not right there.
But that was,
It's only on the
that was
south
the
side.
reason for the amount of space of a float taking up on top of the water.
Or planning.
what's the cross, the T?
You know what, I mean, nothing's, this is not a situation where we have to make a decision today. Let's
Okay.
think about this, the ramifications
I-
of this particular issue,
I-
when we have a maximum of 6x20 as far as square foot coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I
So-
have seen several other floats very similar to this being placed in other parts of the town, and I've always had questions about it, because I know why it's there. It makes perfectly good sense as far as getting on and off the boat
Yeah.
safely, but I'm looking at our regulations too.
Well, right, now we're increasing the size of the square footage, so that's the question here.
So what I'm looking at is, on the pier, there's the cross, the T portion of it, which I assume is for kayaks or paddleboards or something. Could you remove a portion of that to
Well,
sort of
no,
balance
no,
things
it's-
out?
It's basically the float size, you know.
Okay.
We established a square footage on that. There might be some, but the
I just
ability
thought
to modify this
as a way of
to
mitigating.
shock the boat over closer.
See, that you cut 2 feet off on the 6 foot,
Well-
on the 20-foot float, and then you make it a 6x18, and then it would come into compliance.
Well,
There are ways of making this work.
Yeah, let me talk to the
That's
consultant.
even a Sean Cambridge question about consistency and
Well, they
policy.
have to be consistent, right, because we've held, everybody else has had to follow the rules.
You don't want to
And
make
this-
similar decisions moving forward.
Excuse me?
As a board, you don't want to make similar decisions moving forward, so it's something to think about and hold over, I think.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think, Sean, you're gonna have to
We're
go.
gonna hold on to this for a
One
while.
other quick question, being that it's a boat lift and it doesn't rise and fall with the tide, can you put a fixed portion of it there that, a 2x6 or whatever width, and do it a fixed, right?
Well, you
So
see,
so
I've
you can
never,
step up or down.
I've never seen any of these things been put on. So, I mean, everybody else has got them down in that area, the same situation with boat lifts. I think that the boat can be moved over closer. They
On
have it
the
in the
lift.
middle of the lift, it could be moved over a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
You know.
those lifts are designed for different size, different width boats. It happens to
Right.
be a very narrow boat.
Yeah, if
The
you put
boat-
if you put a 16-foot dory in there, essentially it's gonna be, 12 feet off the
Yeah.
bulkhead anyway, so we
Can you
might
put
be able
those
to move it
pictures
over.
up, James? Do you have those pictures?
No, he doesn't have those.
You have,
Yeah, it's right in the middle, see? I think they could move it over closer,
You know,
or
they-
they can adjust it, you know?
well, I guess he's trying
Other
to.
people have them,
But you know what it is, maybe this whole, the whole thing is, it's,
Is he putting in more pilings than that are already there?
No, it's just changing.
made this
height.
too wide.
Yeah,
It should have been over and,
Has,
yeah, you could move this over a little bit. I'll talk it over with the contractor.
that's what I was just going to ask. Has this been discussed with First Coastal at all?
No, I haven't discussed that. I wanted to bring it up as a board first. No.
well, and Sean's got an important component here relative to maintaining.
Well, consistency, yes, that's right. Because then everybody's going to say, well, you got, an additional 12 foot on there, so that means I can have 12 square foot on my dock, and safety reasons and all that business there, so I'll work it out with them. They're not here, so. Okay.
Eddie?
So Ed wanted to talk about the incidental take permit.
Yes. I'd like to maybe I would definitely like to push forward on this incidental take permit. I feel it's something, another tool that we could use for our beach access, the picnic area, specifically in the village of Southampton, that the trustees and the village of Southampton runs, and also the next door neighbor, who is the county park, has a very large area where they have lots of campers, and I noticed this year there has been no traffic or no campers, and I think it's something, if we're going to run a 4x4 program and a beach access, I think it's something that would be good for us moving forward to apply for this and actually get it. And I was wondering if we can also include Mecox Cut area in this incidental take permit, so that would give us a little bit more flexibility as far as dredging, during the bird season, as we're going to engage in a large project down there right now, and it would give us more flexibility in doing that. I think the people of the town would applaud us for doing this, and I think it's a really good step forward in working towards the future of the birds and the nesting, because as we all know, the birds seem to nest more and more and more in this area. Historically, we've been able to use it for a picnic beach driving area 24/7, and I think it's a good thing for us to, an exercise for us to engage in, to see if we can actually get this permit in hand. I believe it's, James, did you say it's a 50-year permit or a very long
They
permit?
said it's a very long permit.
Even though the cost outlay initially might be 50 or 75 or up to $100,000, I think if it's that long of a permit, over that many years, it's very, very cheap permit if you look at it that way. And I'd also like to reach out to the village and the Suffolk County Parks, see if they would come in with us and share the cost burden in doing an IMA in this whole area for this, incidental take permit.
Well, I think they would definitely have to do that. Because even when you talk about adding the Mecox area, a lot of our activities obviously affects things that are outside of our jurisdiction, would be greatly beneficial. I know in my conversations with the various regulatory authorities concerning Mecox, this incidental take permits come up time and time again.
Yes.
It takes a lot of pressure off people. It's a heavy lift when we're trying to do things like we're doing today, with relieving the, very terrible conditions that are going on at Mecox. So we certainly do need to move forward, and I certainly do concur that it needs to be a collaboration with all, the town and with the villages and the county. I think that would make the most sense. It definitely is a great start to the conversation, Ed.
Hey, Ed, could you go into detail and explain exactly how it works? Because when we say this, the people out there, they have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
Exactly how it works, and what you have to give up, what you take, and what you get.
well, what my knowledge of it is basically that if you apply for this incidental take permit in a specific area, you have to do mitigations in other areas. So allowing us to do beach driving or do a dredging down in Mecox, we would actually have to sacrifice some other area in the town where there's a similar access. Am I correct, James?
Yeah, you would work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to come up with a habitat conservation plan that would essentially mitigate one activity in the area that you're looking to get the permit, and somewhere else to increase the amount of your success for the nesting birds in another area, so that it offsets the potential loss in the area that you have the activity. So you'd work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife in order to come up with that number or come up with that mitigation, whether it's, it really, you would have to work that out with them to see if it's possible mitigation.
Yeah.
So it's a process, but it's something that they're amenable to in order to get the take permit.
I'm sitting on this board for 16 years and seeing our ability to drive on a beach and utilize our beaches to be lessened because of our success of the program that we run as far as the birds nesting. So it's something that I think that if we can sacrifice maybe some of the bay beaches where there are birds that are nesting and, offset that a little bit. I think it's something that we should look into and really move forward on.
And it's not always giving up the same, like, it's not always, if you want 4x4 beach driving in an area, it's not always giving up 4x4 somewhere else. It's other mitigations that you could potentially offset, which would be like predator control.
Right.
Stuff like that. So it doesn't have to be
Right.
eye for an eye, but it just makes, you just have to have enough mitigation to offset the potential, or you want more in another area.
Well,
essentially.
I think it's important for the public to understand at least two things. One is that we do have one of the best well-run, and thanks to folks like yourself and the other stewards, threatened and endangered species program around, right? Which has been a very successful program. And the other thing I think that's important to point out is that when you use the word take, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're killing or harming a bird. It's just that you're perhaps influencing its behavior or activity that day. You perhaps didn't hurt or kill the bird. It's just maybe it wanted to go left and you made it go right because we're taking some action to dig the cut or something like that. So I think we would certainly be able to continue to be very, very successful in having that program run and do a great job in terms of the numbers and restoring the number of birds, and also be able to engage in the highest degree of public access and benefits to the environment when you're talking about the activities surrounding the Mecox Bay watershed. So it certainly is a great start to a conversation, and we should.
So a couple points. If we're going to look at an incidental take permit for the picnic area and for Mecox, it's foolish not to consider SAG as well, because that also is an area that SAG is extremely affected by harmful algal blooms, and it needs to be open during the summer season, during the plover season, so that should be included as well. In previous conversations with Fish and Wildlife and with the Army Corps, it has been mentioned because, to be clear, an incidental take permit has not been issued in New York State. Not anywhere on Long Island and not in New York State. In the research that was done last spring and last summer, the only habitat conservation plan that could be discovered was in Cape Cod and several towns banded together in order to make it happen there, but it was only done at the state level, not at the federal level. The consultant that came in and spoke to us in August of last year and that we had subsequent conversations with over time could be helpful in obtaining the grant, but this is an expensive proposition, and in the conversations with Fish and Wildlife and with Army Corps, they suggested it be done in a regional way. So perhaps including East Hampton in this as well, because Georgica suffers from the same situation. Georgica's permit only permits the East Hampton trustees to open twice a year. They're very interested in expanding that. They would be interested in banding together here. It will we will be looked on more favorably if we can assemble as many parties as possible and therefore have much more momentum moving forward with this, rather than looking at a smaller piece to expand the vision here and look at Georgica, at SAG, at Mecox, and at the picnic area. By looking at by incorporating these larger areas, we also have the possibility for perhaps more mitigation, whether it be through education, through predator control, or through increased habitat. But I think that we need to take a broader look at this, and that is what has been suggested in previous conversations.
Well, that's
So
why
if
I
you-
wanted to include the county and the village. Now you're talking about East Hampton
And Sagaponic
and
Village.
Sagaponic Village. I think it's, it's our it should be in our ability to have these conversations with the other towns. Probably, it's not gonna cost that much more to expand the area that we're talking. So if we can get more partners involved, I think we're gonna have possibly more of a funding source. And that way, we'll have more support from different communities. So I think it might actually even work in our favor.
You got to look at it realistically based on the experience that I've seen here. You're talking probably heavy lift in a long time, real long time.
And this
Expensive.
has to be factored in with that FIMP also, if they're going to be doing beach alteration and, re-grading and all the rest. I mean, that's going to be, because I just, the only solution I can think of is to ban beach driving in the other areas. In order to save some of the access areas, is to ban beach driving along the ocean beaches after 6 o'clock for that period of time when the plovers are out. Nobody's fishing at that, not too many people are fishing at that time, but the whole system just is, I don't know, messed up. Because even if you do habitat further down the line, doesn't mean those birds are gonna go there. You could have the same amount of birds in your incidental take area, and then all of a sudden now you can do all kinds of activities but that you couldn't do before. How are you gonna get them to go down to that other area now? They could not even nest there and still have the same numbers in the area, but since you have a plan that you spend $100,000 on, now all of a sudden you can put a silt fence up and stop them from going into an area like when we were trying to do meatcocks last week. We couldn't do it because that was harassing the birds, but if we take another area and say that's available for the plovers to go, even though they didn't go there, now we can do all kinds of activities and everything. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Looks
Well-
like a lot of people a lot of consultants making money.
I mean, it's,
Fish and Wildlife should be down here coming up with some suggestions on what to do.
well,
Is the FIMS plan gonna incorporate a
I don't know.
habitat, a take permit that might necessarily need to be had, because you're gonna reconfigure their nesting areas?
Right,
That's a
right,
big
and you
question.
can't bulldoze dunes down, you can't remove vegetation.
Well, that's
So
not.
what are you gonna do?
Well, that's
You have
what they want.
marshland on the interior bays, you can't start bulldozing marshes down.
Well, in the FIMS plan for the town of Southampton, they want to fill into tidal marsh. They want to fill in western Shinnecock
part of our
Bay.
property.
They want to restructure the dune system, and they want to completely change the topography of a lot of the beaches. This is completely changing the nesting area, which is the habitat for these birds to come for here in the first place.
Right, so they should be in on the discussion.
Maybe they
that's a good lead-in in that meeting that we're going to have with the DEC and the rest of it, to start addressing how it's going to
Well-
affect the whole plover situation.
Yeah.
And another thing that has to be factored in too is James, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we have really good numbers, but we are lumped in with New Jersey. So they haven't been doing such a good job, so our overall numbers of plover restoration are down because, we're being lumped into the average in New Jersey instead of, we should be treated separately. And perhaps that might be a good topic for discussion about, having us as our own separate region instead of another state that has completely different lax rules and more development, and we should be treated, as our own region.
well, I would concur with that, and especially, with things like we have going on today with MECOX, where
Right.
you're avoiding major environmental disasters, as you would call it.
Right.
And you're also, at the same time, respecting the Threatened and Endangered Species Program, where you're protecting these birds, and yet you're trying to save, generations of shellfish and the rest of the ecosystem that we have here in the township. So, it's a great conversation starter, and again, I like to collaborate with everybody. I think collaboration is an important part of this equation, and I think you have to start somewhere, and I think it needs to start, we are working on scheduling this meeting to try and at least get this MECOX situation under control. It doesn't make sense.
It all ties in.
It all ties in.
So
And-
when we have the policymakers in the room,
Right.
then maybe we can find out, what their plans is. It's similar to the situation you have with roads, the county comes down and paves a road, and then telephone company comes in the next week and tears it up because they had plans to put a new cable in. So So now you have a beat-up road again,
And-
so
and-
everything's got to be working together.
Right, and you hear about these things, you know, this happens all the time, and that's why I say, you know, everyone's got to collaborate and, you know, get what their concerns are on the table, and then figure out how you make it all work, and you certainly can, we certainly can make it all work. You just got to get everybody around the table working for the same common goal.
Yeah.
Bring your concerns and your ideas, and let's work it out.
I can
But
see
this-
SAG, I mean, you know, SAG's got to be let out. MECOX is a little bit of a different
Yeah.
story because we're managing that, and we normally don't have to open it up in the summertime, you know, because we do everything in the fall and in the spring before plover season starts. We get the bay in shape and everything, but this year is a anomaly.
The real reality is, it's heavy lift and it's long-term, is what it seems like, but you got to
Yeah.
start somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we were to submit the application for the incidental take permit, and then we started the process, basically, it's not a lot of money, it looks like $100 or $50.
Yeah, well, yeah,
It's
right.
to submit it
Get it in,
and get the conversation going.
Yeah.
And then
if
we can
moving forward,
modify it.
Right.
then we can hire or put a request for proposal out for a consultant, and then vet them out and see which one we want, and then have the, I don't know, if we would want to be the applicant, or is it all the people that we have discussed? Or is it our beach for the 26 miles at Southampton
Let
and
us
then
lead
East
the way.
Hampton? You know, that's a tough question.
It's our, we hold the easement in this
Yeah,
town.
so
Right.
that's, so I think we should start with the submission of the, an application
that's fine.
with the necessary fees, and then move forward from that.
And let Army Corps, I mean, the Army Corps is the experts, we had this with MECOX too, with the DEC, asking
Right.
endless questions every day, a new question arose. And when when it was put to them like, well, what's your suggestion? They have none. I think we should be asking the Army Corps, so what do you want to see? And, I mean, Fish and Wildlife, what do you want to see?
That's essentially what you're doing. The incidental take permit application is not like that's not the hard part. It's the habitat conservation plan that has to
It's
go
the-
with it.
Yes.
And that's the process that takes long. It's like 150 days consultation with
Right.
U.S. Fish and Wildlife to come up with a plan
Okay. Okay.
that meets their, you know, their mitigation and, you know, covers the trustees or whoever's involved with the entire.
The formal
project.
consultation.
Right.
So that's what needs to be written, and there's a handbook that Jess printed out for, I think you printed one for
Yeah,
you
we
guys,
have
but
one,
if you
yeah.
want another one, if you want one for yourself, we can.
Well, we'll
print
leave
it.
this,
It's
yeah, we'll
very
leave this in
large
the office, yeah.
handbook for a habitat conservation plan,
Yeah, let's not-
planning.
Let's not kill any more trees.
And the process.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's a lot more than just filling out the application. We can certainly get the application, you know,
Yeah.
sent to them to start the process, but it's the habitat conservation plan that goes with
Right.
it. That's gonna be
Yeah.
the.
I think we ought to do it for us, because we, you know, each jurisdiction has different rights. I mean, East Hampton doesn't have the same easement as we have, you know, they have different ownership patterns and all that, so.
Well, if you start the process, I think the direction, you know, you'll kind of see which direction you got to go as you start to get involved in the collaboration with everybody, then you'll see what you got to do.
I will reach out to the village, Jesse Warren, the mayor, and start that conversation, and get a contact for Suffolk County Parks, and send them an email on what our intentions are. And then if someone else would like to reach out to Sagaponic and East Hampton and express our intentions and where we'd like to move with this, I think it's a good conversation to start.
Sounds good.
Well, yeah, I mean, at least get the application in and then
Okay.
figure out where we're going from there. I mean, we can talk about this, you know,
At least you have it in,
at a
it's
more
in the
executive level.
pipeline.
Yeah, and then figure out really what, you know, I know a lot of people are saying a lot of things, but when you actually get into the nuts and bolts of something, it kind of dictates
Well,
really what makes sense.
We'll either have probably have a series of public hearings, so that people in the public can give comments and have a learning, an experience of learning how this whole process goes through with the government and everything.
This could take years.
Well,
5
I'm-
years?
Yeah.
Hey,
6
But
years?
then it's good for 15 or more.
it's,
Every time that we open, or every year that we encounter this and that we delay it, it just
No, I agree. You gotta
compounds
work
things for
within that
future
system.
boards.
It's true, but the reality is
And-
that the other people, the other agencies also have to understand, you know, that we're bringing the local knowledge and the local concerns, and people have to move with a certain degree of urgency when the situation calls for that. And that's what, as long as I've been sitting on this board, is what I was hearing from people that they understood, and that's what they were gonna do. So while you're waiting to get the paperwork done, you're still not putting the environment under more stress than it needs to be. And it really hasn't happened. So, we'll, look, we'll send it out, we'll
Yeah,
see where it
get it
goes.
in.
In conversations with the consultant in the early part of this year, the federal agency that issues the grants for these habitat conservation plans, it was not able to issue the grants due to COVID, so they were very interested in issuing them now in a much faster way. So they're,
Everybody using that COVID for an excuse. They
They're-
were still supposed to be working regardless of whether they were working from home or in the office. Jeez.
I don't know the explanation for that, but I do know that there were not grants issued, and in conversation with the consultant who had been speaking with people at the federal level, they were looking to change the delays that had been present previously, so they're looking forward.
10 years.
So, one thing, there was success in the Habitat Conservation Plan's acquisition in Cape Cod due to stakeholder involvement, and the stakeholders that were involved there were the 4x4 drivers, primarily the recreational fishermen. So I think that at some point, Saba would be a good ally in this. There's certainly they may not be as active now as they have been at some points, but Saba has a large membership, and perhaps they would have some other ideas. I spoke to someone who had collaborated with the Long Island Beach Buggy Association in doing a bit of work, and I think Saba would be helpful in this as well.
Okay. Okay.
What else we got?
I'd like to close the meeting and go into executive session because we have a couple of different litigation issues
I'll second that.
to discuss. So, all in favor?
Aye.